Okay, Councillor Higgins, we're live. You can start when you want.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the virtual meeting of the Major Application Planning Committee for the London Borough of Hillingdon. This is a virtual meeting. It's also being broadcast simultaneously on the Council YouTube channel, Hillingdon, London. My name is Councillor Henry Higgins and I am the chairman of this meeting. Online housekeeping. Before we start, can I make sure that people have their phones off or on silent? If you are wearing a headset, ensure your microphone is away from your mouth and avoid noise. Please keep your microphone muted when not speaking and then unmute to speak. Only one person may speak at a time, and as the chairman, I will call those to speak. First, I'd like to do attendance, please. Can I, for members, Councillor Tuckwell?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I am present.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman?
Good evening, Chairman. Yes, I'm present.
Councillor Morgan?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm present.
Councillor Morse? I can see you. Saw a minute ago. Okay, we'll come back to Councillor Morse. Councillor Melvin?
Yes, Chairman, I'm here.
Councillor Haggar?
Good evening, Chairman. President.
Thank you. Councillor Sensatori?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I am present.
Thank you very much. That is everybody except for Councillor Morse. Steve, if you can let me know when he joins, that'd be handy.
You haven't called me, Henry.
Sorry, Councillor Duncan, I'm not. Do you know what? I can see you. I would never forget you, but you're not actually on this list, which is fine. Because I try to be organised. You know, I'm not going to be organised. I'm going to usually do what I normally do and do everything by the seat of my pants. But this time, I try to be organised. Anyway, Councillor Duncan, are you present?
I am. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will put you in.
Chairman, I can just confirm Councillor Morse has rejoined the meeting.
Councillor Morse, can you hear me? And you are present, so I'll tick you off.
Yes, I was having problems. The sound just suddenly stopped and I had to carry out some maintenance. I don't know what I was doing. But
yeah, don't worry. We're all having technical issues tonight. I'm probably the worst at the moment. Okay, and also I'd like to introduce I'm not going to the most important people of the meeting. I'd like to present the officers that are present in this meeting. The planning officer, Mandip Malhotra. I think that's correct.
Present, Chairman.
It's not your first name, so I'm going to get in trouble here. Head of planning, James Rogers.
I'm present, Chairman.
Thank you. Transport officer, Alan Tilley.
Good evening, Chairman. I'm present.
Thank you very much. And the legal advisor has changed. And Kerry, welcome, Monroe.
Thank you, Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, everybody.
And Democratic Services is Neil Fraser. I can see you, Neil.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Democratic officer is also Steve Clark. Thank you very much. I can see you. Okay. In the terms of a technical meeting control, as you can all see that we've been, it's a little bit hazardous at the moment. If any councillor leaves the virtual meeting partway through a period of time, lost connections, I will continue the meeting unless we're not quorate, which is 3 councillors. The agenda we will go to. Can I have apologies for absence, Neil, please? Or is it Steve?
It's me tonight, Chairman. No apologies have been received for tonight's meeting.
Steve. Declarations of interest in matters coming before us. Anybody? Yes,
yes. Arlington, item number 9. I will have to clear interest, and I will leave the meeting. I don't know where I come back.
Or a non-pecuniary interest for 1 minute.
It's I'm a governor, non-pecuniary.
Perfect, thank you.
Matters notified in advance of urgency before to us? Nothing, I don't think. Okay. To confirm that confirm public and private reports, everything is in public tonight. So we're on that. So the first item on this agenda is item 6, the press plant at the old vinyl factory. I think this is down to you, Mandip. If you can present this. Any public? Have we got public petitions and written representations of this, Steve?
No
Sorry,
petitions have been received on any items for this evening's meeting.
No petitions. And
Sorry,
any,
Mr. Chairman, before we continue, can we agree the minutes from the last meeting?
yeah, sorry, I will do. Sorry. Yes. Has anybody got any issues with the meetings from the last meeting? They're all fine. Well, there you go. We've just wasted 5 minutes, 5 seconds of my time. Thank you, John. Okay. So have we got any ward councillors on any of the items, Steve? No, great. And
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
on item 9, you should have received an email from Councillor Haggar.
okay. Have you received that, Steve?
Yep, can confirm that we had a receipt for an email from Councillor Haggar earlier today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you after the presentation, you discussed what she said, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, I will put your hand up if you want to speak after the presentation. So, Mandy, over to you, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members. Item 6 is the pressing plant building, which is at the old vinyl factory on Blice Road. Bear with me while I just present the presentation. I just started talking without doing that. Hopefully you can all see my screen, or should be able to shortly. The old vinyl factory is a parcel of land located between the gatefold building and other developments known as the boiler house and the material store. So the applications on this site have been to planning committee on a number of occasions. This one has also been to planning committee for approval, and in 2018 we granted planning permission on the site for a mixed use development which comprised of a cinema building on the black block that's shown on the plan on screen. And then there were 2 blocks of residential accommodation, but incorporated within this residential block was also a new health facility on the ground floor. Now, the application before us this evening is to make alterations to the permission that was granted in relation to the cinema building only. There are no changes proposed to the health facility or the residential block. So this is a Section 73 variation of planning permission to amend the proposals that have been granted permission. You have all had your plan pack, so there are some very detailed plans provided. I thought it might be more useful to understand in visual context what the changes are that are actually proposed on the application site. So these are the proposed visuals of the application. This is the back of the building, which front faces onto the residential development, which is located to the south of the site. So that is this building here that you can see in the background, and that's the development of 81 residential units. This is the front of the pressing plant building. So we have a retained locally listed facade with additional built form in order to accommodate the cinema buildings and other ancillary facilities. Now, the list of changes that are proposed are set out on page 28 in the planning application. So they include increasing the number of cinema screens from 3 rooms to 4 rooms. The application has grant funding from the GLA. It's one of the things that the GLA wanted to do in order to ensure that this was a sustainable proposal that was being put forward. We are also securing, if I can go to the next screen. This is a helpful plan which shows sort of the before and after on the right hand side. So this is what we had already granted consent for in 2018. So it was a retention of the locally listed facade, and with this I'll call it an add-on, and it was meant to look like an add-on, and it does. And the current proposals seek to not increase the overall height of the building beyond the very highest part of the development, but they do increase the built form in order to accommodate the additional floor space and cinema screen. This has resulted in various alterations to the floor plan. So the top plans show the consented scheme, and the bottom plans show the as proposed schemes. And this is for the second floor. So this is a cinema void. So the cinema screen is provided at the first floor, and then the largest screen is delivered on the upper levels. The application has been recommended for approval. The variations that were sought relate to energy provision and noise matters. Now, noise has been looked at to ensure that the fabric of this building does not have a detrimental impact on these developments surrounding the site. So that is the machine store, the boiler house developments, and also the terraces along Blice Road. So there is residential terraced housing on the opposite side of the road. We have had a daylight and sunlight assessment, which has concluded that there is a minimal impact as a result of the increase in height to the development proposal. As such, we are securing the same legal obligations and imposing conditions in order to secure the development in accordance with, or in line with the original consent. I'll take you through to some photographs of the the wider application site. So again, this is a CGI, it's not a photograph, for clarification. But these are some of the locally listed buildings within the old vinyl factory site. This is one of the already built out residential blocks. This is the rear of the Technical College, which is located on the site. So this was the location of the original as planned cinema. It's a shame that obviously the cinema which was proposed on this development site was unable to come forward, primarily due to viability reasons, but it is hopeful that this application will still deliver a local cinema for the local residents within the site. The application is recommended for approval, and I will hand back and stop sharing my presentation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mandip, for that. Obviously, this is up for approval. Do I have anybody who wants to take it forward? Councillor Tuckwell.
Just wrestling with the mute button there, Chairman. Yeah, thank you for that presentation. It wouldn't be a majors meeting without a visit to the vinyl factory site at some point. Just note that this is a previously consented scheme with some amendments to conditions. I don't see anything majorly wrong with that. It's been covered off quite nicely. I think the picture that was showed earlier on that showed the add-on, as was described, actually is more sympathetic to the building that's already there. So the only thing I was going to pick up is it does talk about a fire strategy in condition 3. Normally, these schemes would have their own fire strategy condition, but just wondered, as it's already been consented, if there was any comment on that. But other than that, I'd be happy to move this recommendation forward.
Okay, thank you for that, Steve. Mandip, you wanted to come in before I go to other officers?
Yes, apologies. I forgot to mention that there is an addendum, but it is typos to condition wording. It's not fundamental. In respect of condition 3, we have approved a fire strategy because we had one provided in 2018. I'm just going to triple check that we're asking for a fire strategy in respect of the new cinema building. So bear with me and I can come back to that.
You can come back to that one. Okay, I have Councillor Duncan, Chapman and Melvin. Councillor Duncan, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to be sure that I understood from the plans that whereas before the original consented scheme showed the retained building and the retained facade, you know, in its original form, and now we've got this big black box behind it. Is that how it is? Well, I'm sorry, I'm afraid I must disagree with a colleague here, Councillor Tuckwell. I don't think it adds to it. I think it destroys the integrity of that building. Is it a locally listed building or listed building that we're retaining the facade? I think
it is a locally listed building.
Yeah, and I would just rather that the add-on at the side went up higher than that it came across and actually destroyed this, because it doesn't bear any relation to any of the form of that original building in any way. It's totally unsympathetic. It's just like a black box stuck on the back of that building, which I I feel is unfortunate, because it could presumably have been added onto the other building. There are higher buildings roundabout that would then stand as a composition, you know, different but complementary. So I'm sorry, I'm afraid that I dislike the design of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Can you also put your hand down, because you press the hand button. You can. I can't take. There you go. Lovely. And you, Mandip, you've got the hand still up. I'm going to go, before I go to Councillor Chapman, Mr. Rogers would like to come in. So can you?
Yeah. Well, I could firstly answer the first question that I think we will need to add an additional fire safety condition. In effect, the original permission was from 2018, and the reason on recent consents we're adding a fire safety condition is it's part of the new London plan that's been gradually gaining weighting every month since 2018, in effect. So I think in this particular case, I'd recommend that we do add the condition, but because it's a standard condition, in effect, that you could delegate that aspect to me, because it would be a sort of standard wording, in effect. The point I was going to say in terms of the building, the design issue, our own urban design officer, one thing he was mindful of is that there is a community benefit from this proposal. So in kind of weighing up any harm, you do need to bear in mind that there's quite a lot of community benefit that comes with this proposal. So in effect, there is an on-balance, but the on-balance is that it should be approved, and that on-balance is taken into account the community benefits of the proposal. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'm happy to second this proposal. I do very much take on board Councillor Duncan's misgivings, but I still think the new design has merit, so to speak, and it's still worth going ahead with. So I'm happy to second.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Melvin.
Everything's covered, Chairman. So I was just going to second. So fine.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else got anything to say? No. Okay, so I'll go to the vote now.
Sorry, Chairman. Sorry to interrupt. We've got Councillor Morse who's raising his hand there.
I did press the electronic.
Right, fine, that's fine. Sorry.
I would like to say something though, please, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, sorry.
I tend to agree with Councillor Duncan's observations, and I do note that there's a light loss to the people living in the machine store building. However, it does say that the lighting level is acceptable. I think it's a bit unfortunate that this has happened, but what I will reluctantly accept is that the addition of a fourth cinema is of social benefit for the local diversity. So I will support it, but I'm not in disagreement with Councillor Duncan's point. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. If the officers can go to page 25 of their presentation, that gives quite a clear CGI of what it would look like with the extra floor added. And to me, it stands back a bit, so you know it's not flush with the current building, and so to me it looks pretty good. So I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation.
Steve, you wish to come in?
Yes, Chairman. It's just to know that Councillor Morse has just dropped out of the meeting momentarily, just as Councillor Morgan started speaking there. Okay. I'm going to give him a call and see if we can get him back as soon as possible. Okay,
lovely. Thank you very much. I think we've covered everything here. It's very strange because I'm usually quite the ones on the opposite side giving my opinions about things, and I have to be really quiet, which is sometimes can be very difficult for me, Councillor Duncan, because I tend to disagree with you. It emphasises the beauty of what the old building used to be. Yes.
Chairman, sorry to interrupt you. I'm thinking if Councillor Morse is to continue to discuss or then vote, it's important that we wait for him to return. If you make a decision for the committee to resolve the application without him, then he can sit out. The decision is yours, because we will still be quorate without him.
Thank you very much, Kerry. Yeah, he's back now. I can see him there having his cup of coffee or tea. He probably dropped up to get that cup. But anyway, we'll. I can see him there now. Okay, so we go to the vote. So I only vote if I get a casting vote. Councillor Chapman seconded. Councillor Duncan.
Against.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Morgan.
For.
Councillor Morse.
I thought I wasn't allowed to vote.
No, you are. You only went out.
Okay, I'll vote for.
Thank you. Councillor Melvin.
Yes, for, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Haggar.
For, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Corey.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. And proposal. I make that 7 and 1 against. Is that right, Steve?
7 and 1 against without your vote, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Okay, we go to the second item, which is item 7.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, this is Neil from Democratic Services. If I could just clarify the rules around members dropping out and being able to vote.
Yes.
Just for the benefit of all parties. So ultimately, it is your discretion as chairman. What I would suggest doing is, if members drop out and rejoin momentarily, as long as they haven't missed anything material, and I would hope that the legal officer would highlight whether they feel that they have missed anything material in such instances. If that is the case, then that would prohibit them from voting. But if they haven't missed anything material and they can vote, we can also ask the relevant people who spoke to reiterate what they said previously for the benefit of anyone who has missed it.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor, sorry, Kerry, is that he only dropped out for a minute, so there was no problem there, was there? Okay, lovely. Okay, Mandit, would you like to continue? Thank you. I can't hear you. I'm afraid you're on mute.
I'm talking to myself. Sorry about that, everybody. So agenda item number 7 is Brunel University on Kingston Lane. The application relates to, although this location plan shows lots of different areas, I will explain why. The primary area of focus is this one here, and the secondary areas of focus are these smaller strips of land. The application seeks to, the application is fully located within the Greenbelt as shown on this plan. The application proposes to build a new research facility. Now, we have already approved at Planning Committee BCAS number 1 and what is known as BCAS number 2. So 2 research facility buildings which are located on Brunel University's campus. This application seeks to deliver a third third research building known as BCAS 3 throughout the application officer report. There is also a secondary development proposal taking place. An existing building called the Gardner Building is located in this area here. We are proposing to link the existing building to one of the BCAS original buildings. And this was primarily because when this application first came to the planning department, this building was much greater in its size, and we asked the applicants to reconsider the impact that this additional building was having, and by virtue of its need to be reduced in size, it was agreed that additional built form would be more appropriate in this location further to the south of the site. This also allows for the interrelationship of all 3 buildings which do have interrelated functions to then operate more efficiently. The application site is actually the existing surface level car park which serves the various research facilities in this quadrant of the Brunel campus. The application is therefore also seeking permission to relocate various car parking spaces, some of which are located around the proposed BCAS 3 building, and if I click, others are located in other areas of the application site. Now, I can confirm that whilst some of these areas of car parking, the displaced parking, are used on various occasions for overflow parking, they are not designated parking spaces under the council's approved plans. So we have double and triple checked the numbers, and the application, whilst it results in a displacement of parking as a result of the new building, it does not result in a net loss of parking. Now, although the application site is located within the Greenbelt, there were very special circumstances put forward, and they are set out within the officer report. The proposals will deliver significant benefits and also facilitate a sector that needs some support in order to bring it forward, in order to expand. And it also makes sense that it's located where it can share the existing research facilities of BCOST 1 and 2. If I take you through some 3D views and modelling, now your application packs are very detailed insofar as they are technical architectural drawings. Hopefully this massing image tries to provide some context. So this green roof that you can see on the screen at the moment is the location of the infill extension which links the Gardner building with the original BCAS buildings. This is the new facility located within the car park. So these are existing buildings on either side. Now, in the initial proposals, as I said, this building was much wider, much longer, and had quite a significant impact in terms of creating a very enclosed space between these existing buildings. So the proposals put forward today have been through extensive negotiation, and we've got to what we feel is an appropriate form which will help support the university in delivering its aspirations. And the very special circumstances, again, are set out within the application report. The development is supported by various, or the planning application is subject to a legal agreement and various conditions, and accordingly has been recommended for approval. I can take you through to some photographs. Bear with me. Here we go. So that's the Gardner building, centrally located, which will now be linked to the existing BCAS development. And here you can see the existing BCAS 1 and 2. This is the Elliott Jacks building, the quadrant of parking that the new building will be located within. One of the other benefits of the development, and I'm not sure if I was clear enough in showing this, I'll go to a plan, is that you will also be provided, or part of the proposals include, a new landscape square. So this will facilitate a more open space that can be used. It has no car parking. It is primarily additional landscape square to serve the proposed development. The application is recommended for approval. I will hand back to the chairman and stop sharing my presentation. Thank you.
Yes, Amanda, we got some amendments. You want to run through those quickly?
Apologies, yes, there is an addendum on this item, and it is primarily, bear with me. The one of the errors on the report pack is that we were recommending refusal. Now, obviously, that was a complete oversight. So that's on your first, on page number 4. The application is recommended for approval. I can assure you that was, I assume, human error and typo. That was not meant to be the case. And then all of the rest are minor corrections, so an amendment to a condition and so on. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Okay, I've got Tuckwell, Duncan, Haggar, Morgan. Anybody else? Morse. Okay, and was that you, Carol? You is Melvin? Councillor Melvin? No. Okay, fine. So, Councillor Tuckwell, do you want to take us out?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like the final factory, it wouldn't be a majors meeting without Brunel University being featuring somewhere. So I think all members would welcome, supporting our university and making sure that it grows and develops, particularly with the current climate. So I've got no problems with this application. I think the special circumstances have been covered off quite well. Air quality features heavily in here, and I also note the access officer's comments as well, which are quite extensive. My question really is would this development benefit from a type of green wall to sort of help out with the sort of the green theme here? I'm looking at particularly, I think it's slide 48 that you referred to, where you can see the infill is overlooking some allotments. and it might be something which might make it more sympathetic. But I'm also conscious that it's a building within an existing sort of educational structure. So that's my only sort of question really. But other than that, I'm happy with this application.
Thank you very much. Amanda, I'll leave that with you for a minute and I'll carry on. Councillor Duncan.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Very happy to second this and welcome the investment. It's good.
Duncan, you can actually propose it because it hasn't been.
I'll propose it then, Chairman, and very much welcome seeing this investment coming in and strengthening the university within our midst. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Councillor Haggar.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm in complete agreement, so I won't go over any ground that's already been covered, but I do think the link is definitely going to be advantageous and actually making accessibility much easier. I'm happy with the design. I think we've covered a lot on this. I did like the new landscaping and the square. Definitely a good impact as well on the university, and especially with the mental health key, really. I think it's going to be really essential, actually. So I'm happy to second this.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morgan.
I have nothing else to add on all that. I will third it.
Okay. Councillor Morse. Say something?
I am aware of Professor Fan's work here, and I actually do totally accept this is of UK-wide national. His aluminium casting experiments are very important to what's taking place. So I am totally supportive of us actually putting this on the site. I just have one question.
Yep.
If you read the report, it talks about drainage being in a poor state of condition. The condition, it just says it's the responsibility of the university to maintain the drainage, and I'm just a little bit concerned from a planning perspective. I accept we're breaching and making a significant change to Greenbelt, but I think I'm a bit concerned about the drainage in the terms of it reports it's in poor condition, and we're not conditioning it to be maintained in good condition. That's my question, Mr. Chairman, but I do support it.
Okay, thank you. Mandip or James, who wants to pick up on the green wall and the drainage?
I can pick up on the drainage quickly. I know exactly where Councillor Morse has picked that up from. It's condition 6, and I'm immediately thinking when I read condition 6, it needs some tweaking.
Okay,
so I'm in complete concurrent with Councillor Morse. So I'd be really grateful if I could have delegated authority to rework condition 6 of the Flood and Water Management Officer.
I'd give you that.
There's bits of the wording of the condition that, to be honest, don't look right.
Okay.
And the intention I would have would be to strengthen it. And I actually totally, it's the line Councillor Morse I know has seen. I concur with him that needs rewriting.
I'm sure that we all agree with that one, so we'll agree on that for you to leave that with you, James. Mandip, what about this green wall? Can we?
Yes, in respect of the green wall. Now, if you look at condition 12, I think we have tried our best to take on board what Councillor Tuckwell was referring to, and that's that the southern elevation is the one that we need to be most concerned about. So we have sought to impose a condition for living walls and screens, and we specifically refer to incorporated into at least the southern elevation. So that's the 3rd and 4th line of that condition. Okay. I don't feel it needs strengthening, but if on review you want to strengthen it, I'm happy to take suggestions.
No, I'm quite happy with it. Good. Councillor Tuckwell, are you happy with it? Yeah, fine. Okay. I'll go straight to the vote then. No one else wants to speak. So, yes, I will go. Councillor Chapman.
Go with officer's recommendation, Chairman.
Okay, fine. Do I, obviously, can I ask this to you, Steve? Obviously, we've given delegated power to something. Do I have to mention that before we go to the vote, or can I just, we've said it live anyway and it's recorded?
You should reiterate that.
Yeah, before we go to the vote, it's best to reiterate it, but it has been agreed generally by the committee.
So I will say that I'll give it delegated power for the drainage to go to James Rogers. And do you still wish to agree with that, Councillor Chapman?
I do indeed, Chairman, together with the delegated powers.
Councillor Duncan proposed. Councillor Morgan.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morse.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Melvin.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Haggar, second. Councillor Sapori.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, brilliant. So I've got a full house there. Do we agree with that, Stu?
Yep, unanimously approved, Chairman.
Thank you very much. We go now to item 8, which is N4 car park, North Perimeter Road, Heathrow. Would you like to take us out?
Thank you, Chairman. While I try and get to the right slide, can I just alert everyone that there is an addendum on this item as well? We sought some clarification from the applicants in respect of what the parking numbers were on the Heathrow site. So this was primarily because the application before you proposes to use one of the staff car parking areas, so that's this area highlighted in red, as a COVID testing facility for staff and travellers. In principle, there are, as you can see in the report, no objection. It would be for a temporary period only of 12 months. However, one of our concerns related to what quantum of parking would be taken up by the temporary testing centre and what its impact is in respect of staff numbers. Now, at the moment, the airport is only operating at 10% of its levels from last year. And in that respect, that's absolutely fine. And we could accept that this level of parking was lost to the new COVID testing facility. Moving forward, though, because the facility is required for 12 months, the applicants have assured us by virtue of the comments set out in the addendum that the level of parking is not going to be detrimentally lost in terms of moving forward. So if the number of flights were to increase and the number of staff therefore coming on site were to increase, the long-term plan is obviously that they wouldn't need this facility anymore, but if it does need to be relocated, they would find a facility probably internally. But that is something that's probably 6 to 9 months down the line in terms of planning about whether it's needed beyond 12 months. So the application is for testing centres. Now, the numbers may have alarmed you. I know when I first looked at this application, I was somewhat alarmed. Does Councillor Morgan want to say something?
No, that's after. He's just indicating to me. Don't worry.
Apologies. So the number of vehicles that would enter the site are quite significant, but when you take into account that this is a car park for staff where there are up to 3 shifts per day, the numbers are actually not that different. So in highways terms, there is actually no detrimental impact. If anything, there is that much less use throughout the airport that this still wouldn't make a change to highways impacts. The application is supported. At maximum occupancy, it's expected to achieve 5,000 tests a day. That doesn't equate to 5,000 trips, and it's considered to be acceptable and is recommended for approval as per the officer reports. I will hand back to the chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It is sad that during this time of the COVID-19 that places like this are required. I've just seen that there's been another 1,800 deaths announced today, and my heart goes out to all those who have been affected by it. Look, it's essential. It is needed, and so I'm very happy to go with officers' recommendations and propose it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Morgan. Councillor Sensapuri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, because this is temporary changes and we need it for the present circumstances. So I will second officer recommendation.
Thank you. Before I take that, Councillor Duncan.
No, I was just going to second it, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Melvin.
Yeah, like Councillor Duncan, I was just going to second it because I think it's a really good system.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go straight to the vote. If no one else wants to speak, can you take off your hands if you have them up on your screens? We go, Councillor Chapman.
Very happy to approve, Chairman. I think it'd be a very person who didn't, to be honest, under the current circumstances.
Councillor Duncan, seconded.
Yes, for, thank you.
Councillor Morgan, proposed. Councillor Morse.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Melvin.
Yes, definitely for, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Haggar.
For, Chair.
Thank you. Sansapuri seconded. Councillor Tuckwell.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a full house on that one again. Is that right, Steve?
Yes, Chairman, unanimously approved.
Thank you very much. As you can all hear my dog in the background, someone's obviously come to the door. Okay, we'll move on now to item 9. Mandip, would you like to, Councillor Morse, would you like to sort of turn on?
I'm withdrawing from the meeting because of non-pecuniary interest.
You'd like to turn your camera and your sound off, please?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, we turn the sound off.
Thank you, Chairman. Arlington School is the next application on the committee agenda. The red line on the red plan on the screens shows the area of the planning application. So the ground floor layout of the school building is shown to the left of the pink plan, and this area on the right comprises the current playing fields. The staff car parking area is positioned to the right-hand side of the existing school building, and this is the existing vehicular access into that car park. If I take you through the constraints plan, there are no constraints on the site per se, but the application has greenbelt land along its southern boundary. This is an existing site location plan and a site layout. We can move through this. Bear with me, I think I've missed a... Yes, I have. I've missed a plan. So the application proposes no changes to the car parking area per se. There is a... The fundamental change is that the school buildings, which are currently on what is the left-hand side of your screen, will move on to the right-hand side. So the current single-storey building, which is located here, will turn into a 3-storey school block on the right-hand side, and then a separate sports building will be facilitated, and then you will be provided with sports pitches, and the Mooga will be relocated to this area here. Now, the application is proposed in this way, primarily to ensure that the school can carry on and function whilst the construction phase is taking place. Now, the application proposes to increase the number of students from 6.5 school years to 8 years of entry, 8 forms of entry, apologies. So that is a circa approximately 200 additional students. It is very much supported in terms of the educational demand for additional school places. And furthermore, the need is also there to ensure that we can deliver a new school facility and a better upgraded school facility, whilst we also maintain the existing school functions on the existing school site. One of the drawbacks that this has raised, and Sport England do raise it, if I take you back a step, is that there is no temporary provision of sports facilities secured as part of this application. So whilst the sports field is being built on for the new school building and the new school is operating on the other side, there is a question about where children will play. Now, you'll note that there is an area of land which is in the ownership of the school facilities. However, it is loaned out on occasion. So there are initial discussions taking place about how the school will function for school PE delivery as and when the school field becomes null and void. But that is something that's secured as a planning condition. Notably, Sport England, who do normally object, have not objected to the scheme after a number of revisions to the size of the cricket field and sports pitch layouts. This is the general arrangement of the ground floor plan. One of the key things to note here is that there are actually 3 entrances into the school building. The first entrance is a public entrance because the existing public library that is located within Arlington School is being re-provided within this new building and will be set out in this general layout. So there will be a library located here and 3 adult education rooms, all accessed via this entrance point. There is a clear break here whereby no persons from the school building can actually access the adult education and public library facilities. Now, the library facility is accessible to all students from within the school, and that's the same as the current arrangement within the library at Arlington School. The school use the library as well as the general public during the day. There are short periods of exclusive use for the school, and I believe that's early mornings only. The library does also operate in the evenings and at weekends, and that is maintained through it being a secure site and will still function. So residents will be required to come off the street, walk down past the car park, and then access the public entrance. This is the main entrance into the school building. So that's the school serving the 8 forms of entry of students. And this is a new entrance for special educational needs. So we are also delivering a larger special educational needs facility at the school, which is again much needed by virtue of demand. This is the general arrangement of the first floor, the general arrangement of the second floor, and the roof plan. Now, the main building initially started off as a render building, and we have fought long and hard to try and get a nicer materiality and finish for this building, and it is now a fully brick built building. There was limited articulation that could be provided insofar as its form, but we have sought to try and secure different brick types in order to provide some visual interest in the form of this building. The sports centre building does look a little bit more interesting and varied, and that's the one that's located behind the school building. But again, it's only, whilst it is single story in its form, it requires higher head heights for sports provision. This is the internal layout of the sports centre. The application also does provide some additional tree planting along the edges of the application site. So that's along this area here, there will be enhanced tree planting. And then the new public walkway down into the public library is again going to be tree lined. And this, from here you can see the new pitch layouts. I'll take you through to, these are just some general details about fencing arrangements and secure line information. Now, the secure line information feeds into the addendum that's been published this evening. The addendum provides an update of information we've managed to secure from the libraries and educational manager at the council. So there has been some ongoing discussion about how you would manage the public access within the school building in order to ensure safety of all those students within the school. This plan shows the secure line, which is an area delineated as that which will be accessible to all persons. So school, public users, SEN provision, anybody. They would all come in if driving into the shared vehicular access point or walk down the driveway to come into one of the 3 main entrances into the building. We have also proposed an additional condition by virtue of which is set out in the addendum, and this is to try and secure a management plan that ensures the safety and security of pupils and the public whilst they use the public library facility. This is going to include, and this isn't written down in the current strategy because it doesn't exist at the moment, but the things being discussed are CCTV, secure fob access, not just to the car park, but also to the various entrances as well, and the possibility of fobbed access on Pinkwell Lane itself. None of these things are confirmed as yet, but they are things that have been discussed with the DFE and then the librarians, and so they are work in progress, hence the reason that we thought the condition was necessary in order to make sure that we can secure something that's robust and doesn't cause us a concern. There is a tree protection plan as part of the application, and then again the vehicular access points. One of the changes by virtue of vehicular access is that their vehicles will now come into the application site whereby the car park was previously closed off. Now this is for limited drop-offs, and its closest point is primarily to service the special educational needs. So vehicles will come, drop off, and then exit the site. This is not an area of parking. We have undertaken an independent noise review, and it's not considered that there is sufficient harm once you've installed acoustic barriers to residents in these areas here. And this is where the additional enhanced tree planting is proposed to safeguard the residents on the right hand side. This is a bird's eye view of the plan, so it's all of this built form would effectively move over here, and then the green Muga and new sports pitches provided in the place of the location of the existing building. This is space for construction, the area for the proposed new school, sports field. You can see some of the houses, so they could benefit from the additional tree planting that's proposed in all areas. And that's the single-storey school building. These are the backs of the residential properties. The application has been recommended for approval. There are a number of conditions and heads of terms set out on pages 136 onwards, and I will hand back to the chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandip. James, would you like to come in, please?
Yeah, I was just going to quickly say, as Mandip has explained, and I'm particularly referring to the addendum now, we've existence of the public community operation of the new school are secured in the right way. So I want to make a slightly unusual recommendation to committee, which is that the final details of that condition and clause 4 in the legal agreement, which is the public access being secured, that you recommend that they be signed off in conjunction with the cabinet member, with the relevant cabinet member. So rather than you just delegating to me, what you do is through requesting in the minutes that I liaise with the appropriate cabinet members before using the delegation you'd bestow to me if you approve this application. I hope that makes sense, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman.
I'd just like to say thank you to you and Mandip and the rest of the team for actually, this was a concern that we raised together, and I would certainly wish the committee to agree that this be included in the minutes should this application be approved. Having the right to management arrangement in place to ensure public access and safeguarding of the children is incredibly important to me, and I'm sure to all of you. I would have serious concerns if relevant cabinet member was not fully briefed on such matters before the final decision is made. I consider making the addendum and the legal agreement subject to the cabinet member's scrutiny to give us all further comfort. The reason for that, it makes sure that we're bracing this down, because I do not want any issues here. I have now Councillor Tuckwell and Councillor Duncan to speak. Councillor Tuckwell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a number of points I wanted to raise on this, but I think the first thing is that any facility which improves educational provision has to be welcomed. So this is a good news story, but I'm glad James has picked up on the first point I wanted to raise, which was around access, and I'm happy to support the approach in terms of what he suggested there. The second point really was in relation to condition 7, and I know Mandip touched on this, but in the report it does talk about how Oakington Avenue Gardens in particular are very close to the school. And we are talking about sort of putting some screens, some trees around that side, but the condition doesn't specifically mention that. Does it need to, or are we happy that the residents or the rear gardens of Oakington Avenue are protected? And those are my 2 points. Happy to go with James's recommendation for the first point and just a clarification on those trees in condition 7.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tuckwell. Steve, before I go further.
Yes, please. Just on James's point that he was James Rogers' point that he was referring to. Just for the minutes, could you reiterate which condition that pertains to? And also, Chairman, we've got a.
So I'm sorry, Steve. I was basically saying that I think I'd feel comfortable, and I think the committee would feel comfortable if the legal agreements and the condition in the addendum are basically that I discuss them with the relevant cabinet member before officers either authorise or complete the legal agreement or sign off the relevant planning condition in effect. Sorry, you probably wanted me to say that quite succinctly, which I didn't. But yes, it's the condition in the addendum and the legal agreement that the minutes are saying that I would refer them to the cabinet member before I authorise the delegations in the committee report.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Councillor.
Sorry, also Chairman, sorry if I come in there. We also received a submission from the Ward Councillor for Pinkwell, Councillor Lakmana, earlier today. If I could just read that out to the committee before the discussion really gets into flow. So this submission came in this afternoon from Councillor Lakmana. I draw the attention of members to the comments made by the London Fire Brigade, as noted on page 161 of the report. They're recommending strong support for a fire sprinkler system to be installed. The Pinkwell councillors fully support the need for Arlington School to be developed in order to accommodate the anticipated increase in school places. That's it, Chairman. Thank you
very much, Steve. Councillor Duncan, I eventually got to you. After you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it's very much to be welcomed. This school is very much needed. I mean, we lose 7 forms of children in the south of the borough that go out borough, or some of them to the north, but certainly they're not accommodated in the south. So this is very much welcomed. I also was going to comment on the point that Councillor Tuckwell made about we're going to have a 3-storey building quite close to residential properties. So I didn't see in the conditions, and I may have missed this, I apologise if I have, anything about automatic lighting systems, which are now sustainable systems anyway, but you can just imagine if lights have been left on, and they can be quite intrusive into nearby council properties. I think most new buildings now, and certainly a building like this, a major school development, would have that, but should we put that in as a condition? The other thing, I would welcome CCTV, and I hope that is part of the agreement. I think we have that in most schools now. Even the smallest primary school, I think, has CCTV for obvious and very valuable reasons. So I do hope that will be part of it. I would like to have a better understanding of cabinet involvement. At the moment, we are an executive committee, so the decisions are made by members of the committee. And although people may have input to that, people who are consulted, ward councillors, etc., I think that we should not blur the line. It's fine to talk with cabinet members about something, but they are not part of the scheme of delegations. And a scheme of delegations is actually a very, very important legal matter. And officers will tell you, both planning and legal officers, that we have lost quite important appeals in the past simply because the scheme of delegations were queried. So very happy for, you know, anything to be discussed with cabinet members or any other councillors, but the decision must rest with us. We are the executive committee, and I hope that there is you know, no blurring of that, if I can put it that way. Otherwise, I am happy to propose or second, I'm not quite sure whether it was proposed before, but the development. Thank you.
Yeah, James, I think, well, obviously you could come
yeah, I was probably trying to be almost too clever. I was being too clever. The reason I was referencing putting it in the minutes rather than you completely altering the recommendations is precisely for that reason. So it would be a committee decision. So to give you a very good example, in the past, when there's been a complex highways issue and a complex Highways 106, it has been said by the committee, words to the effects, please make sure you talk to the cabinet member, Councillor Burrows, as was then the time. And effectively, it's not the committee saying, James, go and get Councillor Burrows' views and then completely redetermine what we've decided as a committee. It's more simply for me in those cases to just check with the cabinet member. We weren't going to cause through our it's effectively helping me implement your decision, in effect, I think is the best way I could put it. So the specific reason I was referring to the minutes is precisely to avoid the issue you were referencing, Councillor Duncan, that this is a committee decision. So the committee makes the decision, it's then delegating that decision to me. All I all we're really requesting here is that, because there's other things going on to do with, you know, safeguarding and such like, that effectively committee's saying to me, make sure, James, you talk to people so that the final, you know, the details in the legal agreement, you know, that they're effectively addressing the concerns committee what might have. So I was effectively almost jumping ahead one step of me thinking, well, committee's going to want the planning decision to fully cover safeguarding in effect, and to you know, in effect be a safe development proposal. And so all I'm suggesting here is to try and give reassurance to committee that I will you know, carry out the committee's decision in the most intelligent way I can. So it's a slightly long answer, but hopefully it kind of fleshes out more what the thought process was, Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, James. Kerry, you would like to come in?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Duncan is correct in what she says. It is important that the decision making happens in the public interest. So it's vital that communication is transparent. It's open and transparent. I appreciate what the head of planning and transportation is saying. He's saying he's trying to ensure that the council wraps up matters as best as possible, and to see that through after committee. But it's and we do appreciate that. It's what somebody outside, maybe in the public hearing, that there's a further discussion happening without their knowing, might conclude in their mind. So and then that, if it was challenged, that is a problem for the council, because we've not explicitly laid down the application and the cards and the information on the table. So one way of moving this forward might be for the Labour lead and chairman to be involved in the discussions thereafter as a way forward.
Okay, yeah, Neil, if you'd like to come in, then I'll make comments myself.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Kerry's in effect summarised what I was going to say, which was that the decision of the committee, if they are minded to approve this application under advisement from James, is that similar to any other application, they would be delegating to James Roger to carry out the wishes of the committee under his delegated authority. If the committee is minded that they want additional safeguarding, then Kerry's suggestion of including the chairman, yourself, and the Labour lead in that discussion is perfectly valid.
Okay, fine, thank you. Councillor Duncan, you know me well enough, and that is not what this is about, because I pride myself in doing this job as best I can. This is just, for me, it is just an extra check and balances. Our decision here tonight is what we decide. This is just to make sure that those areas that we are worried about of CCTV, as you mentioned, fobbing, sharing of the library facilities, those things are very important, and the safeguarding of the children has got to be our priority. That is the only reason I would not normally ask for this, but I just think it's as a safeguarding position, I think it's very, very important. Yes.
Yeah, could I thank you. I'm happy with the arrangement that the legal officer and democratic services officer have suggested. I think that's fine. Could I just ask about the light, the automatic light condition?
Yeah, I was going to go further to that. This is one of my pet hates, actually. It's something that's new, that I don't know whether other members have seen this, but we seem to, our houses down the road seem to be lit up like Christmas trees these days, with these powerful lights intruding in other neighbours and things. So this is one of the things that I'd like to get hold of, maybe in another committee as well. But yes, I would like the lighting to be looked at very, very significantly. And obviously LED lights now can be very, very low as well, so they're not intrusive, but they do enough security to let that. Mandit, would you like to come in?
I completely concur that we do need the automatic lighting switch off condition. And I'm sorry that it was missed on this. We do normally have it on the school's applications. And whilst the Muga and the floodlighting might be quite far away from residential properties, the school buildings are obviously moving closer to residents, so there should definitely be an automatic switch off condition. Would you like me to just touch on the tree buffer planting that Councillor Tuckwell raised?
Yes, please.
So there is a plan at page 330 of your plan pack, which does show where the boundary buffer planting is proposed. Now, the one thing I believe I've misread on the plans is that the boundary buffer planting doesn't specify whether it's trees or hedges that are proposed in this new buffer planting. So I would say that if there is a concern with regard to Oakington Avenue residents and you feel that there is a need for tree planting rather than buffer planting, which can sometimes be interpreted as just hedges, which are fairly low level, I'm happy to strengthen condition 7 in that respect. So tree planting along the residential boundaries of the school site.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan, are you happy with that? Obviously, we want trees that help pollution. So are you going to say that? Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, yes, thank you. Yeah, trees that help pollution. That would be good. And I do think trees are preferable. They're two-storey houses, and we need something a bit higher than hedging. Thank you, and thank you for the lighting condition. Thank you.
I have one.
Go on, sorry, Mandy. Go ahead.
Apologies. There was also a question on that Steve read out in respect of sprinkler systems being recommended but not forming part of the proposals. Now, condition number 18 acknowledges that the current fire strategy does not specify what the system will be. So we've asked for the information to come into us again for approval, and we will sign that off with the council's building control team to ensure that, be it a sprinkler system or something alternative, it meets the building regulation requirements and the fire safety standards.
Okay, fantastic. That's brilliant. So I've got Councillor Haggar and then Councillor Morgan. Councillor Haggar.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we're definitely concerned about the safeguarding aspects and the public. We've covered that. One of the other things I just wanted to understand a bit clearer is the playground area. I know you did touch on it. It does look really small. Are we confident that that's enough for the amount of students that are in there? Now, the reason why I'm saying this is times have changed again, and you know, we're indoors a lot. I know we've got a big sports field, I can see that. I know we've got the hall, but this is going to be the children's break time, isn't it, basically? And it just looks small. So could you just clarify that for me, please?
Mandy.
Thank you. Now, there are two separate play areas. I believe the special educational needs have a specific garden, and that's located well on the boundary with the Oakington properties. And yes, you might argue that the playground is smaller proportionately, but because everyone does play at different times, so generally year groups are sometimes, or sort of the first half of the school is at has a break at one time, and other year groups at a different time. There must be standards that have been accorded with in terms of delivering a play area that is fit for purpose for an 8 forms of entry school. So in that respect, I can take that back and double check whether it meets the standards, but it wouldn't have got past our educational officer if it hadn't.
Thank you. Councillor Haggar, you happy with that?
Yes, I'm happy, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just want to go back to the boundary between the east side of the school and the housing there. We're looking at 2 floors of the school. Obviously, you know, if we're looking at putting in trees, they've got to be high enough to break the view from the 2nd floor into the gardens of the residents that are there. So whatever we do, it's got to make sure that we have mature tree planting or some other form of fencing or block, so it blocks the view from the school into the residents there. Also, we've got quite a big area on the east side that could this become green or something like that, just to break it up a bit more, rather than just brick and glass? Thank you.
Amend or James, would you like to pick up any of that?
There is a condition to try and secure green walls. I will be honest, I think in terms of delivering a green wall, it's unlikely to be feasible. And I think I would prefer the initial approach of strengthening the condition in respect of tree planting. And I would suggest that the wording now states along the entirety of that boundary, because the buffer planting on page 330 is actually along only half of that boundary line. So to strengthen it is probably the best approach.
Thank you very much. I have a proposer. Councillor Chapman, as you indicating to second that?
I'm happy to second that, Chairman. Can I just ask, we've okayed the sprinklers, we've agreed sprinklers, we've agreed automatic lighting system, we've agreed additional tree planting to the east. Have we agreed that we're going to have a condition about CCTV?
That is part of the management agreement.
That's part of that, yeah.
That's in there.
I'm more than happy to second that with all the conditions. Can I ask one question though myself? In terms of the signage, very nice view of the north face of the main building. You've got the big sign saying library, reception, etc. Do we actually sign off on those here? And my main interest, I must admit, is the question about the there's the big H symbol, so to speak. I almost expect that, based on other experience, that will come back in 6 months' time when we have to give planning permission, or we're invited to give planning permission for a large neon sign or something. I just as a point of clarification, are we actually signing off on the signage as indicated in the map, in the plans?
Mandit or James, whoever wants to pick up that one.
I believe to an extent some of the signage is lawful because it relates to the school building. So the majority of the signage you're seeing is you're signing off on it now. If they wanted anything of a scale that's bigger, there are advert regulations, separate advert regulations, then they would need to come back to planning committee. We can add a condition that they shouldn't be neon or none of the signage.
I'm conscious most of the people on the committee are from the north. Maybe it's more south of the borough issue, to be honest. But I'm more than happy to second it, as I say.
Okay, fine, thank you. Can we on the lighting mandate? Can we make sure that the wattage on that side is as minimal as it can be, please? Yep. Okay. I understand it's for security. On that side, it'd be just security lighting. So. But we don't want them blaring out because they're quite powerful floodlights. Okay, so we've got quite a lot here of additional amendments and conditions. Would someone like to take me out here, either Mandit or James, about what we are agreeing? We're agreeing about the lighting.
Yes, so there is. If I run through the conditions and James can run through the other delegated change. So the delegated change to conditions are adding one automatic turning off of the lights throughout the site, and that should include minimum wattage. We are amending condition number 7, which is to strengthen additional tree planting along the boundary with all residents of Oakington Avenue. Condition number 18 is not changing, albeit Councillor Chapman, we appreciate that it will include details of the sprinkler system. So as far as I'm aware, it's those two changes in terms of conditions, and James has obviously suggested a change to the sign-off process.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting any changes to the recommendation. It was more whether you wish to just totally delegate to me all of the recommendations, or whether, as was discussed, there'd be some other level of scrutiny, and the legal officer was suggesting it would be the chairman and Labour lead. Yes. My original suggestion was a cabinet, that I talked to the cabinet member, but I think it's best I leave that with the committee to decide what they would prefer.
Thank you, James. I would still like it to be also signed off by the cabinet member relevant, but the Labour lead and myself involved in the outcome of that. Is that okay, Councillor Duncan?
That's fine, as long as that can be explained to Councillor Morse at some point, because he is the Labour lead on this committee. It also happens that he, you know, he represents that ward. So
you're going to have to be that person on this because he's sat out. Kerry, is that correct? Because he's not voting on this.
If I can help, we've been here before, and if a councillor's not present, another councillor has to step in. So I know the answer to that question to help Kerry. And you're right, Chair, but it would have to be another Labour councillor would have to step in and act as chairman for this particular issue.
So
he's got a conflict of interest, isn't it? Yes. So it would have to be, because there would be obvious bias and prejudice to the decision. So proactively, it would have to be another. I don't know if
the councillor. So it's down to you two. Who's going to put yourself forward, Councillor Santori or Councillor Duncan?
I think it will be me, Henry.
Fine. I thought that. But I didn't want to disrespect you, Councillor Santori. But anyway, there we go. Okay, with all of that, are you
Chairman?
Yes.
Chairman, if I could interrupt, the resolution cannot specify any reference to the cabinet member. It has to be a resolution to delegate to James Roger in consultation with Janet Duncan on behalf of the Labour group and yourself as chairman.
So we can't get final sign off by the cabinet member now if we do that.
No.
Okay. Fine, well, we'll do that then.
Can I make a suggestion, James? Perhaps it's the condition for the management plan that needs to be signed off in consultation with that relevant department. So the condition that's been set out in the addendum.
I think what's being publicly said is there will be some discussion with the cabinet member, but I think what various people are saying is, in terms of ensuring the decision is sound, I think we have to go with what Neil was saying.
So we agreed that there would be some discussion with the relevant cabinet member, but the final decision between you would be James, me, and Councillor Duncan. Is that correct?
That's
brilliant. So everybody's clear with that. Steve, you've written that down, so I don't have to say it out again. We're going to go straight to the vote now before any further changes. So here we go. We've got Councillor Chapman, who's second. Councillor Duncan proposed. Councillor Morgan.
I'm fourth, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morse is not present. Councillor Melvin.
Yes, I'm for, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Haggar. Councillor Haggar.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you, Chair. Yes, bit of background noise. War, Chair.
Yeah, someone else. Okay, Councillor Corey.
For Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Tucker.
For Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Steve, I've got a full house, correct?
Yep, that one's unanimously approved, Chairman.
Yeah, all those other bits and pieces that we've said. Okay, so
yes.
I'm not going to go through all that again. Okay, fine, lovely. We'll go on to item 10, which is the building at 3 Hyde Park, Millington Road, Hague, Middlesex. Mandip, can you take us out, please?
Can we ensure that Councillor Morse has rejoined us, please?
Yes, before we start. Yes, there he is. He's on cue. Look at that.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Duncan. I am back. Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you, Chairman. Agenda item number 10 relates to building 3 at Hyde Park, or what we quite often refer to as Hyde Park Hayes at Millington Road in close to the Asda development, so the former Safeway offices. This is the application site outlined in red. Now, this is the application that members dislike probably the most. It's a prior approval from office to residential. The one thing I will just highlight is that the site already has prior approval for office to residential conversion, but it has conversion for a larger number of units. This application before us tonight is for 114 residential units with 69 surface level car parking spaces. All of the residential units comply with the minimum floor space standards. So the previous development, which was a larger number of units, were not all compliant with the floor space standards. So one of the benefits of this prior approval is at least the units will meet the minimum requirements in terms of floor space. The plan on screen shows the car parking that's proposed on site. The car parking provision is deemed to be sufficient to serve the 114 residential units. Now we have sought a contribution for circa £40,000, and that's for public cycling and walking enhancements in the local area. That's to encourage more people off the road. We are also securing a travel plan, as well as removing the right for any future residents of this development to secure a car parking permit to avoid any injudicious parking in the highway. This is the existing ground floor plan. It's made up of what I believe is the current Regis office building, the existing third floor plan, and that goes up to the top of the building, the roof plan, and the application proposal is to change the use of the property via the prior approval route into 1-bedroom units, which are all of those in green, and studio units, and then 1-bed 2-person units. So there will be some subdivision in some of these blue units. Going up the building, however, it is predominantly studio units that are proposed, 1-bed 1-person units, and that theme continues throughout the building. This is the application site before us in plan form, so you may recognize it. It has a coffee shop at the ground floor, and to the left of the screen, I'm not sure if there's another photo of it, you will see no, it's just the front elevations of the building that are in the photographs. So the application has been recommended for approval alongside the planning obligations that are sought on pages 214 and 215 of your committee reports. I will hand back to the chairman.
Thank you very much, Amanda. We got some amendments on there. Do you want the acoustic report? I think you mentioned.
We have got some technical updates which are set out in the addendum. Apologies that I keep forgetting to mention that there's an addendum.
You said it's my first time too, so I don't mind. There you go. I got James. Do you need to come in on something here because you've got your little hand up? If you haven't got something, I'll take. Who wants to take me out on this? Councillor Tuckwell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know our hands are tied a lot on this application, but it's actually nice to see a scheme come back with reduced units, actually. So there's a bit more space to future occupiers. So I'm happy with this, and I'm happy to move it. But a question for Mandip is does it need a fire strategy condition, or is that covered off in prior approval?
Unfortunately not. That will, under this circumstance, be covered by building regulations.
Okay, all right. As I said, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to move this one on.
That's great. Councillor Duncan, your hand. See, you did very well. You put your hand up. Where have you gone?
Okay, Councillor Duncan appears to have just dropped out of the meeting momentarily.
Okay, Councillor Chapman, what do you need to say?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm happy to approve this. As Councillor Tuckwell says, we're very restricted given its prior approval. I'll do what I traditionally ask on these, which I'll probably still get a no, but I'll try it again anyway. Given the amount of parking that we're looking at, is there any opportunity regarding passive and active and passive electric charging points?
Who wants to take that up? Bandit, you're on silent.
Chairman, I can answer that one.
Yes, fine. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. I can confirm there would be 14 active electric vehicle charging points and 14 passive, which is 20% active, 20% passive.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Chairman.
Can we have that? Can we have that? Sorry, Chairman. Could we have that repeated for the benefit of Councillor Duncan, please?
Yes.
The question and the answer, please.
The question was have the electrical unit passive and non-passive for car parking, Councillor Duncan, and Mr. Tilly would like to. Can you repeat what you said for me, please?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. There would be 14 active electric vehicle charging points and 14 passive electric vehicle charging points. Thank you,
Fine.
Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman, you want to come back before I go to Councillor Duncan?
I just want to say thanks for that, Dr. Tilley. I must have missed it in the paperwork, but that's what I would have wanted. So I'll regard that as a victory. Thank you.
Councillor Duncan, sorry we lost you. We did wait for you, but you only missed one item. So if you like to say what you have to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to ask, I know this is prior approval, but in developments in more recent months, the issue of the policy 5.9 in the London plan and the heating networks available in buildings such that they don't overheat, etc., etc. I wondered if it's not something that we can condition, if that is something that can be put on as an informative, because it's becoming quite, you know, a tricky thing, really.
As you have stated and know, it isn't something that we can consider under the prior approval process, but there is no harm in putting on the informative to say that the building control needs to accord with the overheating and SAP requirement.
Thank you. That's helpful, because at the moment, although it would be centrally controlled as offices, if it's going to be now multiple small units, they will each have their own heating controls, presumably, and their own bills, which they will be paying. So I don't know how they're going to do that. That's not something we have to worry about, but just as long as they know that that is a policy issue, if you like, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. I mean, you'll probably never hear me say this again, but to have something come back to us that is smaller is a pure. I think I'll do the lottery numbers tonight, because I think that's about as rare as that will happen ever again. So no other further questions have been proposed and seconded, so I'll go straight to the vote. Councillor Chapman seconded. Councillor Duncan?
4.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morgan?
4.
Councillor Morse?
4, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Melvin?
4, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Haggar? 4, Thank you very much. Councillor Corey?
4, Mr. Chairman.
And full house, correct?
Yep, again, Chairman, that one unanimously approved.
Thank you very much. The highlight of the evening is item 11. I will let Nick take us out on this one.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 11 is an out-of-borough consultation for Pinewood Studios. Pinewood Studios are seeking planning permission for, I'm going to call it a theme park. I probably shouldn't call it a theme park. It's a visitor attraction of 350,000 square feet, comprising of a series of buildings, including film production buildings, an education hub, a business growth hub, and car parking. So you can see on screen the area of land that we're referring to is outlined in red. The existing studios are set out in blue, so that's Pinewood Studio West and then Pinewood Studio East, which was fairly recently given permission for expansion into the Greenbelt. The council would like to raise, the planning department would like to raise objections and concerns in respect of the application that's with South Bucks for determination. So the report at agenda item 11 from page 235 onwards sets out some of the concerns that we have in respect of the proposed development. We're not certain that the very special circumstances case to build in the Greenbelt has really been made. We are also significantly concerned about the highways movements. This development will attract a significant number of trips. It is proposing a large car parking area to facilitate all of the visitor attractions, and as a result there is a concern about the impact on vehicular movement. So at the moment, obviously this is one of the thoroughfares in from not just from Uxbridge Road. There is also the secondary impact of potentially the additional movements from the M25 coming off the junction, which are facilitated by a Denham roundabout, which is the key access into Uxbridge town centre. So yes, there were some concerns in respect of the highway movements, and these have been outlined in the officer's report. We have an addendum on this item because we have had a number of the applicants have written to us to say that they disagree with our officer report and the information it contains. We have also had one clarification provided insofar as we refer to the wrong bus within the report. We should have referred to a different bus number, but that is a correction. The bus does exist, so I think that was the key point we were trying to make in the officer comments. So I will hand back, and the application isn't making a recommendation for refusal, it's raising objections and concerns and asks South Bucks to obtain further information. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who would like to take me out on this one? Councillor Tuckwell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the concept is welcomed in terms of, you know, what it does for employment, you know, local economies and as such. But for me, it's just in the wrong place, and there's too many unknowns around the highway's impact. So, you know, further information, getting closer to this application so that we can be more informed is something that I think this objection is looking to lean towards, and I'm happy to go with the officer's recommendation on this.
Thank you very much. Before I bring Councillor Haggar in next, Mandip, you want to say something?
I just wanted to reiterate that from Councillor Tuckwell's perspective, we are definitely supportive of employment generation, and one of the things we have asked for is that when there is a point of engagement, that we seek to engage with South Bucks in making sure that it's local employees, and local would also include the Borough of Hillingdon. Obviously first would be South Bucks, but we would hope we would get first dibs at local employment opportunities were the development to come forward.
Okay, thank you. Yes, that's great there. Next is Councillor Haggar.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm reading through it, does actually quite concern me, and I'm pleased that we're going to have a little bit more in depth. 2.7 kilometres away from residential dwellings in Hillingdon is a lot. I mean, that's not far at all. So that really would have an impact on our residents. So that would concern me, and the traffic flow as well. But also, above all that, it is again a green belt, and it is another opportunity where land is being taken. Although I do understand, again, we're saying it will help the economy, but how far do we go? That's my personal opinion. Here we go again. We're using land again that we really do need to keep for outside. So yeah, I definitely think we need to seek more info on this. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
There's a dog in the background that agrees with you there. So, Councillor Chapman's next.
Thank you, Chairman. I was simply going to second it myself for all the reasons stated. I've got nothing extra to say.
You find Councillor Duncan?
I thought the principle of this development had already been agreed by the government. Maybe I'm mistaken in that, but I thought that the principle of development in the Greenbelt next to the existing studios had been agreed. And yes, I mean, the Greenbelt is something that wouldn't be there unless all the people who had gone before us hadn't defended it so stoutly. But it will have an economic effect on us in Hillingdon as well, I'm sure. If it does go ahead and it's a very large development, then there will be benefits for small businesses and even larger businesses already in existence and setting up in Hillingdon. So I think, yes, the employment side is good, but such a huge site is going to generate a huge amount of traffic, and already the road into Uxbridge from that Denham roundabout is very, very heavily congested at times. So we need to ensure the traffic flow for the benefit of our own people, primarily in Uxbridge, but really the whole of the borough. So I'm very happy to go along with this objection. Let's find out more about it.
Okay, fine. Mandip, I believe this hasn't been approved yet by government. I know there was another scheme that was refused by government. Mandy, would you like to, or James, come back on? This hasn't been approved, has it yet?
I'm not aware that there is any form of consent on this site,
Okay.
but Councillor Duncan may be referring to what I mentioned, Pinewood Studio East,
Yeah.
which was a government decision.
Yeah, which was refused by the government. Anyway, anybody else? Councillor Morse, you said, sorry, beg your pardon.
No, Mandy answered one of my question actually.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
We'll go straight to the vote. I have a seconder is Councillor Chapman. Councillor Duncan, agreeing with officer's recommendation, obviously.
I do.
Thank you. Councillor Morgan.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Morse.
For, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Melvin.
Yes, I'm for, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Haggar.
For, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Henry.
For, Mr. Chairman.
And proposed by Councillor Higgins. So I have all agreement there. Is that agreed?
Unanimously agreed, Chairman.
Thank you. I now bring the meeting to a close. Thank you all. But after you come off the live stream, I'd like to talk to the committee if it's possible. So if you can hang on for a minute. Thank you.
Okay, if everyone remains muted, I'll stop the YouTube stream and inform you when that's happened.